Welcome into OutKick the Show, college football edition. I am your fearless host, Clay Travis. Monday, as I tell you, time after time after time, is our big college football reaction show, and you're getting it early in the morning on Monday because I am taping this on Sunday. So in the event that crazy stuff happens, and we've already had some stuff happen that's crazy, I am taping this on Sunday afternoon. I'm going to be traveling all next week. Got a big event going on in New York City. The debate with Stephen A. Smith is taking place. I think a lot of you will enjoy that. We have got a brand new OutKick show that's going to debut, I believe, at 6 p.m. Eastern on Wednesday. So we will be taping that. It will air on FS1 on Wednesdays. It will look somewhat similar to what you are seeing right now, and we will break down everything that took place in the world of college football, the NFL, and elsewhere. So a super busy week. And then I'm in Michigan over the weekend to speak at a big event, which should be a lot of fun. But I'm going to be on the road a great deal. And hopefully I'll be able to entertain you guys from a multiple variety of time zones. We got a lot to dive into. Big-time win for Texas A&M. I think the biggest road win Texas A&M has had, maybe the biggest win overall, since Texas A&M beat Alabama in year one in the SEC, the win that propelled Johnny Manziel to the Heisman Trophy. I believe that was back in 2012. We'll talk about Texas A&M taking down Notre Dame, the implications. I was in Knoxville for Big Noon and with my family to watch Tennessee snatch defeat from the jaws of victory, Bulldog jaws of victory. We will talk about what happened in that game and what its impact is going forward. Vanderbilt goes on the road, dominates South Carolina 31-7. Georgia Tech gets the win over Clemson. UCLA is really, really bad. They have fired their head coach, DeShaun Foster. Virginia Tech, also really, really bad. They have fired their coach, Brent Pry. Remember, we are taping on Sunday afternoon right now, so who knows what else craziness might have occurred. But I'm going to start with the Texas A&M game against Notre Dame because I think it's the most significant for the national picture. We had two really great games, I would say, in general. Texas A&M against Notre Dame and then Tennessee against Georgia. I'm going to break down both of those games in earnest here right off the top of the show. But let's start with why I think the Texas A&M win was so significant. I think it essentially ended Notre Dame's chances to make the college football playoff. Notre Dame is now sitting at 0-2. They were in the national title game against Ohio State last year. They have now started off their season losing to Miami and losing to Texas A&M. If I am a Fighting Irish fan, what I am rooting for to happen at this point in time is Texas A&M goes on to win the SEC and that Miami goes on to win the ACC, and then Notre Dame is able to win 10 straight games and look back and say, hey, we played two very tight games against the ACC champion and the SEC champion back in September. We've got a brand new redshirt freshman quarterback in CJ Carr that we were breaking in. We are a much better team in November than we were in September, and therefore we deserve an at-large bid. I think it's highly unlikely that's going to happen because I don't think there are going to be enough quality wins on Notre Dame's schedule. Right now, there is 0 top 25 games remaining for Notre Dame. I also think there's a decent chance Arkansas knocks off Notre Dame, believe it or not, in Fayetteville in a couple of weeks, which would make all of this an academic exercise. But I think the most significant outcome of Week 3 is that Texas A&M likely opened up an at-large spot that was taken by Notre Dame last year in the playoff that will not be taken by Notre Dame this year. Okay, what do we think about A&M? First of all, Marcel Reed, you guys know that I like him a lot. He helped to put on a camp my youngest son went to here in Nashville. He is a Nashville guy. For those of you who probably don't know, his dad was the longtime coach at Tennessee State University. He started 4 straight years in high school at quarterback. And the question about Marcel Reed has not been his athleticism. It has not been his ability to grow as a quarterback. It's just been accuracy. And even in this game against Notre Dame, he definitely did not throw for a high completion percentage, but he made the big plays at the right time, including late in this game when he hit a touchdown pass with 10 seconds left or whatever the heck it was on 4th down to give Notre Dame a loss at home, thanks to the fact that they mishandled a snap and were able to be beaten by an extra point, 41-40. Now, looking ahead, and I, by the way, always write about all of this in the starting 11, which I would encourage all of you to go check out. I think this win is very important for Notre Dame because it knocks them out. That loss is incredibly important for Notre Dame. But I think this sets up potentially for 5 SEC teams to get into the playoff, and one of them is maybe, possibly, Texas A&M. Because that Texas A&M front half of the schedule sets up very, very well. Auburn, Mississippi State, and Florida all come to College Station, and that should give A&M a really good chance to be 6-0, okay? Now, it's going to be wild in the SEC this year. It's already a little bit wild in the SEC if you look at what happened Tennessee, Georgia. So, look, could Auburn, Mississippi State, or Florida all pull off the upset on the road in College Station? Certainly. But A&M will be favored to be 6-0. Then they close with Arkansas. Should be able to beat Arkansas. At LSU, we'll talk about LSU in a moment. I'm not really sure what kind of read we have on the Tigers at this point. At Missouri, also not sure what kind of read we have on the Tigers at this point. South Carolina, and we'll talk about the Vanderbilt win over South Carolina. Samford and Texas. At Texas, 10-2 feels very doable if A&M can start off 6-0. If A&M can start off 6-0, then 10-2, I believe, I've said it for years, you get to 10-2 in the SEC, you are going to be a college football playoff team. So that's the goal every year. Try to get to 10-2. I think that Texas A&M, with the win over Notre Dame, has not only knocked Notre Dame likely out of the playoffs. This was a must-win game for the Fighting Irish. I think it's also made Texas A&M a slight favorite to be able to get to 10-2 themselves and get into the playoff. All right, I was at this game, and I'm never going to forget it. It's probably the worst game that I have watched in terms of the difficulty of a loss in person, maybe in my life in college football. And it would have been the second best game I've ever seen in person if the kicker had just executed on what should have been a, relatively speaking, chip shot field goal. And everybody is focused on the field goal that Tennessee missed against Georgia that allowed Georgia a second life and an opportunity to come back and win 44-41 in overtime in Knoxville. Here's what stood out to me. Tennessee, with about 2.5 minutes to go, had Georgia in a 4th and 6 from the 26-yard line. Get off the field on that play, and it's almost a certainty that Tennessee would have won this football game. Almost a certainty, I say, because Georgia still would have had their timeouts. Maybe Tennessee runs the ball 3 times. Georgia uses their timeouts. Not that much time comes off the clock, and Georgia still has a chance to come back down and tie it and get the 2-point conversion. So it wouldn't have been a certainty, but it would have been awfully close to a certainty. And even if they don't give up a touchdown, even just giving up a 7 or 8 yard gain, clock's going to keep running. You're probably hitting the 2-minute warning. You're probably moving towards the situation where you almost have to kick an onside kick. But Georgia, London Humphreys, who's from down the street here from where I live, makes a fantastic catch, great throw on 4th and 6 with the game on the line. Gunnar Stockton, big-time throw, big-time catch, and I think you have to give credit to both those guys. Then Tennessee has a mishap on the 2-point conversion, a little bit of a bust in the coverage, wide open, easy throw. We're suddenly tied at 38. Okay. Then Tennessee does phenomenally well. 13 straight plays, basically gaining yards on all of them, and Tennessee is sitting at the Georgia 20. It's about a 37-yard field goal from there when Georgia is about to exhaust all their timeouts, and suddenly you get a false start. It felt to me like Tennessee panicked a little bit when that false start happened, decided, hey, we're going to run the team on the field and go ahead and kick on 3rd down. I don't think kicking on 3rd down is a bad decision. I think if you were going to kick on 3rd down, you should have kicked on 3rd down instead of lining up and trying to run another play, where it looked like they were basically going to have Joey Aguilar take a couple of seconds off, take a knee, get the angle that the kicker through the quarterback would most be in favor of. Instead, you get a false start. Felt like Tennessee went ahead and said, let's not overthink this. Let's go ahead and take the win. We don't care if there's a couple of seconds left on the clock. Let's go ahead and get the dub. And then the kicker came out, probably the biggest kick he'll ever attempt in his life, and he totally shanked it. Now, I don't know that the distance really mattered here because it's a chip shot, meaning there's plenty of leg to get it there. And so I don't know if the difference between 38 yards and 43 yards is going to make a difference. I don't know if it's a 35-yard field goal as opposed to a 43-yard field goal. I'm not a kicking guy. I can't imagine that there's actually that much of a difference here. And so I think he just shanked it. And it's unfortunate because, to me, Tennessee had this game won. And if you want me to give you a positive from a Tennessee fan perspective, it is, at least in Neyland, there's almost no difference between the best teams in college football and Tennessee. And certainly Joey Aguilar was fantastic. He had 2 interceptions. One of them, his receiver fell down. It would have been a first down, I think, if the receiver doesn't fall down, went over his head. Should have been caught. It was a good throw. The other one was just a deep ball. Brazel played unbelievably deep ball, meaning it was basically the equivalent of a punt, and he gave his receiver a chance to make a play. We saw Brazel make 2 huge plays down the field. I think Joey Aguilar is a phenomenal fit for this offense, and the storyline would have been Aguilar near the top of the Heisman list and Tennessee in the top 5 if the kicker just makes the kick, or if you stop him on 4th down, or if you stop him on 2nd down. So all 3 of those plays, probably if you parlayed them and you said, okay, 4th and 6, what are the chances of a 26-yard touchdown pass here? Combined with a 2-point conversion, combined with Tennessee misses a 43-yard field goal, all of which had to happen in Georgia's favor, I bet you could have gotten 50-1 on those odds of all 3 of those plays going the way they did in Georgia's favor. They were low probability, relatively speaking, events for Georgia that Tennessee failed on. And as a result, Georgia's in great space for the college football playoff. My concern for Tennessee, I think it might well be the case that at the end of the season in November, Tennessee has finished 9-3, and we all look back at that field goal and say, if Tennessee had made that field goal, they would have been in the playoff. That's my unfortunate thought. Going on the road against Alabama is going to be tough to win. Oklahoma looks very good. At Florida, who knows what the situation is going to be there. I think if Tennessee makes that field goal, I'm sitting here talking to you today about, hey, I really feel good about Tennessee's chances to go 10-2 or better and go to the playoff for a 2nd straight year. After the miss, I don't. Devastating, crushing, and frankly, should not happen that Tennessee gave up that victory after they were in as good of a position as they were. Vanderbilt goes on the road and destroys number 11 South Carolina 31-7. Comes on the heels of a 34-0 blanking in the second half for Virginia Tech. And Vanderbilt, we'll talk about this when we get to the top 10 and we get to the SEC power rankings. Right now, Vanderbilt is set up to be 5-0. They're 3-0 right now. They got 2 very winnable games coming back home. And I think there is a very, very good chance that Vanderbilt is 5-0 going on the road for the rematch against Alabama down in Tuscaloosa after Vanderbilt won last year. And this Vanderbilt team, behind Clark Lee and Diego Pavia, I think is going to legitimately believe they can win. This is, I think, the best Vanderbilt football team I've ever seen. Now, results might still be they're only 8-4, 9-3. They got a really tough schedule still. But it would not stun me if Vanderbilt is sitting at 5-0. Again, they're into the top 25 now. I think the AP has them at number 20 overall. And it wouldn't stun me, and I'll tell you where I've got Vanderbilt here in a sec when I break down my OutKick top 10 and my SEC power rankings. Wouldn't stun me if Vanderbilt wins 9 games this year. And if they do, that would be the best Vanderbilt football team, basically, of my life. Clemson. Good win for Georgia Tech. Haynes King is a warrior. The execution late to run on your team and bomb through a field goal of that length was fantastic. I think you have to look at Georgia Tech as the team that is most likely outside of the Florida State and Miami duopoly that seems to be at the peak of the ACC right now with Clemson falling off. I think there is an argument out there that Georgia Tech is the team that might be able to actually upset the apple cart of expectations and get themselves into the mix of being able to contend for the ACC title. For Clemson, basically it's ACC title or bust. They are probably, alongside of Notre Dame, the first two teams, even though we're still only 3 weeks in, to have put themselves in a position where they're unlikely to be able to make the playoff. And unlike Notre Dame, at least Clemson still has the chance to win the conference championship, as we saw them do last year, to punch their ticket and be able to potentially advance. How about, let me go ahead and tell you about Prize Picks. Prize Picks, we lost, unfortunately, because Derrick Henry did not score a touchdown. He was favored to score a touchdown, big favorite. He let us down. The Ravens still went out and won comfortably over the Browns. But Derrick Henry did not score, meaning we won week 1. We did not win week 2. But you can still be from California. You can still be from Georgia. You can still be from Florida. You can be from Texas, Tennessee, 40-plus states. When you play $5, you get back $50. All you have to do is go to prizepicks.com, code OutKick. That's prizepicks.com, code OutKick. Pick more or less on 2 to 6 players, and you can put together a really awesome prize package that just gives you an opportunity to enjoy college football, the NFL, Major League Baseball, whatever sport you like more than you otherwise would. And I will give you out a pick every Thursday on Clay and Buck as well as on OutKick that you can play along with us, or you can fade me and do the exact opposite. We won week 1, losers in week 2 because Derrick Henry doesn't quite come through for us. But I think you guys will really love and enjoy the opportunity, if you can, to come play with us at prizepicks.com, code OutKick. Go get signed up today. That's prizepicks.com, code OutKick. $5 play turns in to $50 in credit. Get hooked up today. All right. I wanted to give credit to Dan Lanning. I don't think we have the video to play for you here. I bet when we do a short version of this show and clip it, guys, go get Dan Lanning. Take the whole 2.5, 3 minutes of him talking about Charlie Kirk and the importance of embracing nonviolence. Charlie Kirk, big Oregon Ducks fan, big college football fan, like many of you. And I believe that you would definitely enjoy watching that video after Oregon beat Northwestern and Dan Lanning addressed the Charlie Kirk situation. UCLA, I mentioned that Virginia Tech has fired their coach. UCLA, year 2 with DeShaun Foster. They are now firing DeShaun Foster. He is 0-3 coming off a 35-10 loss to New Mexico. Look, Nico has been a disaster. Maybe with a new coaching staff, they'll be better. I find that hard to believe. Entering into Big Ten play, I think it is likely that UCLA goes 1-11, 2-10, 0-12. All of these records are in play, and I'm not even going to talk about Nico anymore after this because Tennessee clearly got the better of this trade. Joey Aguilar has played phenomenally well, and Nico has been a disaster. But let me just hit you with this. Joey Aguilar had 4 touchdowns against Kirby Smart, pretty good defensive coach, by the way, 371 yards. And so far this season, he's passed for 908 yards, 9 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. Meanwhile, Nico, against much less quality competition, 608 yards passing, 3 touchdowns, and 3 interceptions. And UCLA, I don't know if Nico's even going to be able to stay healthy for the rest of this season, but this is now clearly one of the worst decisions, if not the worst decision, ever made in the history of NIL. LSU, I mentioned it earlier, outlasted Florida because DJ Lagway threw 5 interceptions. But Florida actually had 23 touchdowns to LSU's 10. I think it's fair when you look at how Clemson has played so far to hit the offensive panic button a little bit for LSU. Now, I know the Tigers are 3-0, and you would always rather be 3-0 even if you're not playing at your absolute best. But if Lagway throws 5 interceptions and you can only manage 23 points total, that's a sign that things are not going very well. You only get 10 first downs total. LSU's defense looks fantastic, but they're going to have to kick this offense into high gear if they want to be a playoff contender and actually contend for a championship overall, particularly because games at Ole Miss, at Alabama, and at Oklahoma all look like you may well need to score 30 or more to be able to win. So LSU's 3-0. Texas 2-1, but does not look like a playoff team. In fact, if Texas's name was Mississippi State, or if Texas's name was Oklahoma State, or if Texas's name was Purdue, and every stat was otherwise the exact same against the exact same competition, there's no way any of those 3 teams would be ranked. I'll tell you where I have Texas ranked right now. Spoiler alert, I think it's 12th in the SEC based on what they've done so far through a quarter of the season. But I got to tell you, they don't look remotely like a top 25 team to me right now. I mentioned this off the top, and I probably will talk about it some in my Wednesday edition of the OutKick show on FS1. Rumors of the SEC's demise greatly exaggerated. In fact, when you go back and look right now, the SEC teams are dominating out-of-conference foes, unlike any other major conference team, including what just happened with Texas A&M and what just happened with Alabama destroying Wisconsin. SEC is 10-2, 1 loss, again, Power 5 conference games against, or Power 4, against the Big 12, the ACC, and the Big 10. Big 12 is 6-6. Big 10 is 5-5, and the ACC is 4-10. Those 3 other conferences, in addition to having substantially inferior records, also have more losses to non-power conference teams. The SEC has 1, South Florida beating Florida. Big 10 has 3. Sorry, Big 10 has 2, Big 12 has 2, and the ACC has 3 losses to non-power conference teams. Okay, let's go ahead and dive into why I believe my OutKick top 10 is the absolute best top 10 anywhere on the planet. And it's because I only rank teams based on what they've actually done. Not what we thought they were going to do, but what they have actually done on the field. And for my money, that makes Miami the number 1 team in the country right now. Big-time win over Notre Dame. Big win with ease over South Florida, which had already notched 2 top 25 wins. I think through 3 weeks, Miami has a better resume than anybody in college football. They are my OutKick number 1. This number 2 is going to throw some people for a loop. I've got the Vanderbilt Commodores at the second best team through 3 weeks, only judging based on on-field results of anybody in college football. Vanderbilt has beaten Virginia Tech in dominant fashion in Blacksburg, and they've beaten South Carolina in dominant fashion in Columbia. No team in America has 2 better road wins right now than Vanderbilt in a power conference arena. Third place, I've got Florida State. The win over Alabama keeps looking better as the Crimson Tide rounds into shape and as Ty Simpson is looking very, very good at quarterback. I think that FSU win continues to grow in luster. It's probably the best win that anybody in college football has so far this season. So I've got FSU at 3, Ohio State at 4. Similar to how the Florida State win over Alabama is getting better, you have to continue to evolve and judge the quality of wins based on the teams since the games were played. That Ohio State win over Texas doesn't look that good right now because Texas hasn't looked very good against opponents since then. So I've got Ohio State still at 4, LSU, In a similar fashion to Ohio State, how good was that win on the road against Clemson? Again, only 10 first downs against the Florida Gators. 2 quality wins, but how good were the teams that they beat? So I've got LSU at 5. A&M I've got at 6, coming off of the huge road win. Biggest road win for the Aggies, I think, since 2012 when Johnny Manziel went on the road as a huge underdog and helped propel the Aggies to an upset victory and then himself to the Heisman Trophy. So I've got Texas A&M at 6. I've got Oklahoma at 7. Still like what I saw from the Sooners so far. Mateer, their quarterback, very impressed with how easily they handled and controlled the game against Michigan. So I've got Oklahoma at 7. I've got Georgia at 8. I know a lot of people, I look out there, they got Georgia super highly ranked. Guys, if Tennessee makes a chip shot field goal, relatively speaking, at home, or gets off the field on 4th and 6, or stops a 2-point conversion, those are 3 different plays that they should have been able to make. Certainly, they should have made the field goal. Georgia's not inside the top 10 at all. So I bumped Georgia down, actually, even though they won, and even though winning a road game is important, they only won because Tennessee choked. They actually had the game lost when they controlled the outcome. They just got lucky. Oregon, I've got at 9. Again, I mentioned go check out what Dan Lanning said about Charlie Kirk, about violence, about free speech in America. I thought it was fabulously well said. And then I've got Georgia Tech at 10. Road win over Colorado, and then the win over Clemson at home. So 2 power conference wins already for Georgia Tech. So Miami, Vandy, Florida State, Ohio State, LSU, Texas A&M, Oklahoma, Georgia, Oregon, Georgia Tech. That is my current top 10. Okay. Get ready. Get ready to have this clipped and have people lose their minds. I only rank teams, as you just heard in my top 10, based on the actual on-field results, not what we expect to see, what we actually see from teams. With that in mind, for the first time in the history of the starting 11, which has existed, I believe, since 2011. So the first time in the 14-year history of the starting 11, I got the Vanderbilt Commodores number 1 overall in my SEC power rankings. Vanderbilt is number 1 overall in my SEC power rankings. I think they have the best wins through 3 weeks of anybody. 2 road wins over power conference teams in tough environments, typically Virginia Tech and South Carolina. Vandy is 1. I've got LSU 2. Texas A&M 3. You heard me break down some of the top of the SEC. I've got Oklahoma 4, and I've got Georgia 5. Okay? That is my top 5 right now in order. Vandy, LSU, Texas A&M, Oklahoma, and Georgia all being entirely ranked based on what happened on the field. In 6, Tennessee. If Tennessee makes a field goal, they're probably number 2 behind Vanderbilt, maybe number 1 in my SEC power rankings. Instead, they shank the ball on the field goal attempt, lose in overtime. But I think when you look at that head-to-head matchup, there was not very much distinction between Georgia and Tennessee. In fact, in Neyland, Tennessee had that game won before they choked it away. At 7, Alabama. Crimson Tide have bounced back and played very well since the opening road loss against Florida State. I've got the Crimson Tide slotted in at number 7 overall. 8, Mississippi State. Big win over Arizona State at home, and that's a solid power conference win. I've got Ole Miss at 9. 2 SEC wins, neither of which have been particularly impressive against Kentucky and Arkansas, but 2-0 in the SEC is 2-0. I've got Missouri, best win remains Kansas at 10. Auburn, best win remains Baylor at 11. You can argue those. Some of these are within a spot or each other, I think. 12, I've got Texas. So people say, how in the world could you have Texas at 12, Clay? And I would just say, if you replaced Texas and Mississippi State or Arkansas was written on the front of their jersey, there is no way at all that Texas would be ranked. Right now, Texas has looked like, through 3 weeks, a bottom half of the conference team. Now, can they turn it around? Do they have a lot of talent on paper? Yes. But so far, they have not put it together. I've got Texas at 12. South Carolina at 13. One of the most surprising outcomes of the season isn't Vanderbilt winning. It's Vanderbilt winning 31-7. I know DJ Lagway got hurt. I know that the South Carolina offense turned the ball over a bunch of times, potentially as a result. But to lose to Vanderbilt, a team that you had beaten 16 straight seasons by 24 points at home, it was a stunning outcome to me of the season so far. Arkansas Razorbacks, I slot in at 14. Scored a lot of points against Ole Miss. We'll see, Razorback fans, on the 27th when you get the big game against Notre Dame, what we should be expecting from the Arkansas Razorbacks going forward, whether they can get a monster win in Fayetteville. Kentucky dropped fit down to 15, and then I've got the Florida Gators, who defensively put up a really valiant effort. I think they have proven themselves to be a very good defensive team at number 16 overall. Again, I'll have an NFL breakdown for you tomorrow for everybody to be able to watch. It'll either go up Monday or it will go up Tuesday. I appreciate all of you for being fans of OutKick. Check out the Stephen A. Smith debate on Tuesday. Should be a lot of fun. Wednesday, the OutKick show will be debuting on FS1. It's different than what you just heard. Punchy, 30-minute show. I think you guys will enjoy it. It'll probably look something similar to this. And then I am running all over the place on top of that. It's going to be a busy week. Go buy balls. And I hope you guys enjoyed the respite from the awful news. Again, condolences to Charlie Kirk's family. He was brave. He was courageous. He was an incredibly important and influential figure. And I believe, based on the way his wife is speaking and the huge outpouring of support for Turning Point, that his influence is only going to grow in the years ahead. All right. Love all of you. Hope you enjoyed college football. It's going to take me a long time to forget that Georgia win, but it was a scintillating, incredible game, as was Texas A&M at Notre Dame. Look forward to the games next week. By the way, gambling picks, I don't want to jinx it. 9-3. 9-3, giving us a really good 3 straight winning weeks for the gambling picks. Hopefully we can continue to stack some of those. I'll have more gambling picks for you in college football on Tuesday. We'll see how the rest of the NFL picks play out. But so far they're going okay. And I will see you guys with the NFL breakdown sooner rather than later. DBAP, unless you need to SBAP. This has been OutKick the Show, College Football Edition.